Hey guys, so the big day is finally here. We have the Scream 6 official full-length trailer, and I think it's absolutely hilarious that the characters in the movie are still using landline phones. Does anybody even use a landline phone anymore? But I like it because it's become such a staple in the Scream franchise that it would feel weird not to have that landline phone moment. And also I like the fact that they're still doing that thing where Ghostface cleans his knife after every kill, because we see that in the trailer like we've seen it in every single movie, and it's nice to have that feeling that it adds to that we're still in the same universe, because it does feel very different in this movie, and in some ways that's good, in some ways not so good. But first, I'll say I do think that this looks like it's going to be a lot better, in my opinion, than Scream 5. That says something about the franchise, that it goes up and down. Even 6 movies into it, it doesn't just get worse and worse like some franchises. I will admit, Scream 5 was my least favourite Scream movie. If you want to see why, I will link the card. But yeah, I really wasn't a fan of the killer's motive. I'll go a lot more into that in my review video, but I feel like they really disrespected the fans. I'll just say that and leave that there. But anyway, I do feel like they're going in a huge different direction, obviously, with the fact that there's no Sydney. They're going to be in New York City. Ghostface has a gun, which I wasn't too sure about, but obviously Ghostface has used a gun before, usually at the end of the movie, so the fact that he's doing it in the middle of the movie is different. And I'm okay with that if they keep it to a minimum. Like, I don't want to see him going all Samara weaving and ready or not, you know, gun strapped across him, bullets strapped across him. No, I want him to have his knife, because, well, it feels like a knife is sort of like a quintessentially old-fashioned murder weapon. It's an old-fashioned thing almost at this point. And it suited the small town vibe, but now they're going to the big city. It almost parallels the darkness of the city and the fact that it's going to be more brutal. The stakes are higher, so the fact that he is using a gun sort of does make sense. It feels like it is a parallel to the fact that they're in the city now. And talking about the city, as someone who's been to New York City, well, I was there for a day. I was an au pair in America because I'm Australian. And we had our training camp in New York State, and they took us into the city for literally like 5 hours. Like, who could see New York City in 5 hours? And I still remember this, no joke, I accidentally walked into a film of Denzel Washington's. I was walking onto the set without even knowing it, because they weren't really doing a good job of like setting up barriers. So yeah, random Australian tourists are going to walk onto a movie set. Anyway, little story there, but yeah, one thing I noticed about New York City is that it definitely does feel like a place where if you were going to get attacked, nobody would do anything. Well, they might whip out their phones and start recording, but that's about it. So yeah, it definitely feels like it's different in that Ghostface will attack you in public in front of a crowd, and that's something we haven't seen before, and I do like that. It makes the stakes higher, because you can't just run for help and then you're safe. Like, no, there is no safety in this movie. Anyway, we'll talk a bit more about my theories after the trailer, but first, if you've already subscribed, please hit the notification bell, or just give this video a like. Okay, let's go check out the trailer. New York City.
You got a problem here, guy?
So he's got to be pretty strong. Like, I'm thinking it has to be a man.
had this secret. There's a darkness inside of me. It followed me.
Oh, I hope we have more Billy Loomis
and it's
flashbacks.
coming for us. We share a certain history.
Kirby.
This isn't like any other Ghostface.
Ghostface is an artist.
What is this place? A shrine.
Well, that's so
Gotta
cool.
lure him and we execute him. Hello.
Let's play a game.
You know you're like the 10th guy to try this, right? It never works out for the dipshit in the mask.
Maybe.
I love that.
but
Just seeing it in the
remember my
background.
key, Gale. I'm something different.
Why are you different?
That's why I'm gonna shoot you in the head. You want me. So let's finish this. Guys?
So Jill Roberts was one of my favorite ghost faces, and she happens to be in this movie set in New York City called Nerve, and they have this scene in Nerve where they're climbing across a ladder just like in this movie, and it just reminded me of that. So if you haven't seen that movie, go check it out. It's a really good movie. But one thing I think they're going to do that's also different is that Ghostface this time will survive, setting it all up for hopefully Sydney's return in Scream 7. And yes, I still have faith. Stu's return. I know Stu is probably dead, but you know what? I can have a bit of faith, and I hope that he comes back. Sydney comes back, and we have our final showdown. And you know what? I'd like Roman back as well. He wasn't really an interesting ghost face, but his storyline was so interesting. The fact that he was her brother, and I feel like that just wasn't really explored enough. So, yeah, like he was the mastermind, right? He set up the first 3 movies, so I feel like his story wasn't really completed. Anyway, let me know what you think down below about the whole Stu coming back. Do you want him back? Do you think he's dead? Anyway, one interesting theory I had is that Kirby could be the killer because she's always been obsessed with movies, with horror movies, just like previous ghost faces. You'll get that joke if you've seen Supernatural. Anyway, so ghost faces in the past have used movies as well. They claim it wasn't part of the motive, which is the whole nature versus nurture thing, I guess. But the point is, obviously, horror movies have been a huge part of the Scream franchise mythology, and having a character like Kirby who's really into horror movies, who's been, you know, a victim who the guy she liked tried to kill her, and now she's a cop. Like, you have to wonder, does she like the danger? Does she get drawn to that? Is that part of the reason why she decided to become a police officer? And at some point, did she just finally snap after having so many horrible things happen? Having one of her best friends turn out to be a killer who tries to kill her. I mean, it would be enough to make anybody snap, right? And maybe she had her one bad day and she's the killer now and she's teamed up with somebody. So yeah, that's just a theory that I have. I don't think it will really happen. I don't think they've really had the guts to make such a fan favorite as Kirby into the killer. But I would really like to see that. So anyway, they also talk about luring in Ghostface, like baiting him, which is something the victims have never done before. So that will be really interesting. And obviously, I think we see on the train there's 2 ghost faces. So I think there will be 2 of them. Who knows? Maybe even more. Maybe that's part of what is different. So the last thing I think is that Billy's daughter, she talks in this trailer about her inner darkness and how she's trying to sort of fight it, and I would really like to see her actually full on embrace it, like we saw a little bit of that at the end of Scream 5. I would like to see her just sort of embracing that and becoming sort of Billy 2.0, but doing it to protect the people she cares about, you know what I mean? Sort of like in Game of Thrones, how, you know, we have Dany, Daenerys Targaryen, who is doing these horrible things at first, like in the first few seasons before season 8. She's doing these horrible things, but she's doing them for a reason, because she wants to set the slaves free. So it's sort of like that, like somebody embracing their inner monster to fight another bigger monster. So that's something I think would be really cool to see. And I would like to see some more Billy flashbacks. I know a lot of people didn't like that, but I thought, you know, I liked it. Billy was one of my favorite characters, so I'm always going to be excited to have him back in some capacity. But anyway, let me know down below, do you have any speculations about who Ghostface is this time around? Let me know your theories. Please hit the notifications, like, subscribe, all of that stuff. You know the drill by now. Thanks, guys.